Okay, let me start with the most important thing. I'm so happy to be able to help you promote this documentary. Thank you so much for coming in. Before we get started, the only reason Collider gets to be at the Toronto International Film Festival is because of sponsors. I want to give a huge thank you to Nordstrom Canada for being a great sponsor and for allowing us to cover movies like this. It's expensive, to cover fests. I think you've probably heard the rumors. Even making movies. So I have a million questions for you guys, but the first is I just want to say thanks for making this movie. It's such a great story and so powerful, and I think the one word I took away after I finished is inspiring. To remind people that this is possible, which I think so many people lose track of, all the time. But so since most people not have seen the movie yet, I hate asking the generic question, but can you talk a little bit about what the film is about?
The film is about a faraway country called Armenia. For me, it always played out like a fairy tale. It's almost like once upon a time in a faraway land, a group of rulers controlled a country, and they grew richer and richer, and they grew more powerful, and the people lived in poverty. And then one day, one man, her husband, Mrs. Hakobyan's husband, a man by the name of Nikol Pashinyan, and a small group of followers, and a stray dog, they decided they were going to walk across the country and in a matter of 40 days realize a revolution against the most powerful rulers that country had ever known. And everybody said this was absolutely ridiculous until the revolution came to life in one of the most splendid and inspiring spectacles that any revolution could hope to achieve. Now Mrs. Hakobyan's husband is the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Mrs. Hakobyan, she's declined the title of First Lady, actually, so we'll call her a philanthropist and the editor of the Armenian Times, one of the big newspapers of Armenia.
Everything about this story is so crazy because, as I said, I think off camera, if you wrote this as a Hollywood screenplay, what happens? No one would make this movie because they would say it's too unbelievable. So I guess talk a little bit about how you got involved. Let's start with that. How did you get involved in this whole thing?
Nikol Pashinyan, while he was in the square, he was encouraging diasporan Armenians who don't live in Armenia, to come back home because this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see people elated, at the prospects of driving their own dreams, living their own visions as a country, as a populace. And so I went, and when I was there, Garin and I hooked up, and he was already shooting a lot of stuff that was happening, and we just got involved. We realized the importance of the message. We realized that irrespective of press covering the event, BBC, Al Jazeera, etc., being at the revolution, we realized most people outside of Armenia are not going to know that in 40 days, a post-Soviet oligarchic corrupt regime was completely displaced by a progressive new government without one bullet being fired, without one person dying, and in a revolutionary tactic known as decentralized civil disobedience that's historically unique and never been used. And we knew that there was a story here that was so special that it had to be told as soon as possible.
As I said, I really mean this to anyone watching right now. At some point, this will be available for people to see, and I just so recommend this one. Just to please seek it out. So talk a little bit about when did you realize you wanted to start filming this thing? When did you realize something special's happening?
Change has been impossible in Armenia for decades. We've been on the street. Nikol Pashinyan has been on the street. Serj Tankian has been on the street. Anna Hakobyan has been. We've been fighting for this and failing at this for decades. I have thousands of hours of footage of failed revolutions in piles and piles of drives. So If you want the honest answer from me, I had no idea this was going to succeed. I thought, wow, another social movement has started. I'm going to pick up my camera like I always do because I have nothing better to do or because I'm compelled to the faith and the possibility of the magic that we all felt. And that was the thing. By every analysis, by every intelligent evaluation of the scene, this was not possible. You're saying Hollywood wouldn't greenlight a movie. That's true. In the political analysis, too, it was the same thing. It was pure idealism, pure faith, against the all-powerful regime. So to believe that this was actually going to happen, no way, and yet at the same time, in our heart of hearts, it was inevitable. We didn't know when it was going to happen, but we knew the eruption of the magic would one day come, and it finally came in March and April of last year.
It is, I have to ask you, when this whole thing must be so crazy, but when did you realize, at what point in this journey did you realize, because it's on film, but when did you realize something's really happening here? You know, like what has this been like for you?
To be honest, I realized that this time my husband and our nation will win when even nothing has started yet. Just my husband told us in an evening, nice evening, that he is going to start a movement against Serj Tankian's third turn. And I realized that time that this is what we must do, and this time he will succeed. I don't know why, but I believed in it. And the further processes showed that I was right, because because he won.
Right. What's amazing is I am so I don't know what the right word is. What your husband did and the willingness of him to put himself in harm's way again and again takes such courage that I don't know if I have that kind of courage, and I don't think most people have that kind of courage. What is it like for you watching him do these things, being so fearless and just, I mean, I'm so in awe of what he did.
That is why I love him so much, and I became his wife when we met first time. This is not new for me. With this revolution, the whole world knows now about him, about his courage, about his faith, and other very, very dragon, positive things. But I knew it from the first days I met him, and that's why I decided to be with him, to be next to him in whole journey. And I knew from the first days that he will be in prison one day, that we will face a lot of difficulties in our life, because he was going to this during whole life. I'm with him. I'm not following him just from apart. I'm with him in all this way. Thank you.
I would imagine you had a tremendous amount of footage. So how long was your first cut of this film versus what people will finally see?
You'll see a lean, mean 90 minutes,
Right.
hopefully riveting. It started off at about 2.5 hours, I would say, the first cut that we liked. And with the help of a really masterful editor named Barry Polterman, who cut films like Jim and Andy, we got this to something that we all think is quite compelling and quite cool.
No, completely. You did music.
I did.
Right. I'm curious, when did you start writing, and were you writing when the 2.5 hour cut existed? Like, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the writing process.
Be honest, Serj.
Yeah, no. We actually started with the song that Nikol Pashinyan had penned, the Revolution song, which is called I Am Not Alone, the name of the film. And so Haik Stver is the name of the artist who sang it in Armenia. And so we were lucky enough to have rights to the song, so we were playing around with remix ideas and all this stuff before we even had a cut to do the score to. But I think we started a little earlier than
You always
Final
start
Cut.
early, Serj.
I always start early. I always start early because I don't know what else I've got going on. You know,
Right.
there's always stuff going on. So I started as early as I can to get as much work ahead of time as I can. We started before Final Cut earlier, and we did a bunch of stuff, and then we migrated cues and then kept on writing more and more. Garin and I worked very closely. He came to my studio and to go through a lot of stuff, and that was very helpful. You know, working with a great director who knows exactly what he wants and what works and what doesn't work. That kind of feedback is always very, very productive, obviously. So I think we have a really good score to kind of highlight the positive vibe of the film, the kind of magical result of this 40-day revolution in a way that's never happened in history.
It's amazing. I have to ask you, what percentage of the revolution do you think is responsible? I forget the dog's name.
Chalo.
Chalo. How much do you think Chalo is responsible for the revolution? And I would like a real percentage. I'm thinking a good 15%. Now, am I wrong about this? Is it 5%?
I don't think that Chalo is responsible for revolution at all. but I wanted to give an information. He is living now at our house, and he's doing well, and he is excellent.
Right.
But for revolution, his role is, I don't know.
But you're right
like
to ask.
He is a symbol.
But these symbols were important because it was all about creating a sense that a fairy tale is happening. The entire visual of this man with a backpack and almost 12 followers walking across this ancient country with a stray dog kind of joining them along the way. There was always the sense that it was almost a movie being made to be, sort of being born. And so I do think that Chalo, I'm sorry to disagree with you, plays a very strong supporting.
But make no mistake, the only thing I've learned, I'm going to use the term, have you seen a movie called John Wick?
Right.
John Wick. So there is in the movie, which is
Keanu Reeves.
Awesome, just fantastic. Keanu Reeves plays a hitman, and he's a retired hitman, but they go after his dog. They kill his dog.
Oh, that's right.
The entire rest of the movie is him destroying and killing people because they killed his dog.
Yeah.
And there's an emotional hit that comes from that dog that you cannot, it's so different than a person. And I know this sounds so crazy, but when animals really resonate with people,
right.
and I know I'm messing around a little bit, but I actually think, people love animals.
Well, no, there's the whole save the cat theory, right? If you want your hero to be liked by the audience, you have him save a cat in the first 10 minutes of the film. It's the save the cat theory. In our case, we substituted for a dog, and I think it worked out quite great.
I do have to say one thing. My favorite part of the movie, it's a movie, so I have to talk about it as a movie, but my favorite part of the movie is when Nikol and all the other guys got arrested, and Anna was put in a situation where she had to do something that she felt was out of character for her, which is, get up there and speak publicly, and kind of her, Lena Nazarian, and some of, who's an MP, and really, really stand up for Armenia. To me, when I'm watching the film, that's when I really kind of just emotionally, to me, that's an emotional climax. So I think, all Chalo jokes aside, there were, besides Nikol, who was very, very obviously instrumental, there were amazing people around him, like Anna, like Lena, like Ararat, and all these other revolutionaries that fought with him and advised him and worked with him and did a phenomenal job at really realizing this dream altogether for all of Armenia.
Sure. One of the things I also think is so important about the movie is that it is so important that something like this can happen, because what's happening on the planet right now is just, you think in 2019, I thought as a kid, 2019, we are going to be like Star Trek and so advanced. And like everyone's going to get, like, it's going to be a bit more advanced society. And I feel like we're going backwards in like fast forward backwards in terms of the way we treat each other and the way the planet operates. And so I think it's so important for people to see your story and realize what we can do. I
always say, by the percentage that we saw in Armenia, if that many, as a percentage of population, if that many people came out onto the streets of, be it Washington, D.C., or you name the capital or you name the country, it would have an incredible effect politically on that country. I mean, in the U.S., that would be 30 million people blocking streets peacefully and asking Trump or whoever you'd like to resign.
I'd like to have Trump resign.
I know that I could tell that got you excited, but that's what I'm talking. It's an incredible powerful thing that I think this revolution kind of happened upon. It's something that's never been historically done, and I keep on bringing that point up because I feel like it's not just the revolution itself, but the act of itself was revolutionary.
Sure. I have to ask. So your premiere. What day do you premiere here at TIFF?
Today, in a few hours.
Oh wow. Okay. No pressure. No anything. So what is the plan to show the movie in Armenia? Do you have is it part of a? Do you have a strategy? Is it being bought and like how is it working?
Hopefully, we'll learn more in a few hours. This will be the first audience for our film, and our whole agenda and goal is to find the right partners to bring this story to a global audience. So that's part of the reason why we're at TIFF, and we really believe in this story. We think it has a real magic to it, and we hope to find the right kind of distributor or partner to help us bring this to the world.
I absolutely hope that. Listen, the story is so incredible, and what you all brought to the screen is so well told that I can't imagine someone not wanting to,
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Listen, I could ask you a million other things, but I know you have to do other press, and the point is we'll talk again at some point, hopefully. And I'm just going to say, I really mean it. Your film is fantastic, inspiring. Thank you for what you did. Please thank your husband and pass on how brave I think he is. And thank you for making this movie.